Oil and gas drilling is a part of life in some Gulf Coast states. Whether the drilled well is productive or not, the process produces thousands of gallons of contaminated drilling fluid. Now, companies dispose of that material in several ways, and one option in some states is to dump it on land. This is video we received from a source who doesn't want to be identified. It shows a tanker truck unloading liquid onto land in Mississippi. This is another tanker from the same company finishing up a disposal just a short distance from where Monique Ezell grew up in Waynesboro.
But one of our neighbors from across the street told us that he think that something wasn't right.
Ezell's family and neighbors became suspicious when they saw dozens of Kelly Brothers tankers come to unload at a nearby dirt pit.
I can't really say what they was dumping, but like I said, I've seen a lot of trucks go in there.
Ezell says the family reported the dumping to the state.
We contacted individuals and they supposed they came out, but that was it.
It's been a year and a half since the residents say they made their complaint. Now they tell us they didn't get any answers, and they still don't know what's in the ground so close to their homes. Ezell gave us this cell phone video taken when the family filed the complaint in 2015. She says it looked like an oily substance covering the ground.
It's like bigger than a pond, a regular sized pond out there. It was probably like, I know 3 or 4 sections of ponds, and then like in some areas it wasn't even a hole, they were just dumping it there.
Ezell says truckloads of dirt were hauled in right after their complaint. The family went back and got video of that too. I obtained a copy of the original complaint on file with the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. The report shows Kelly Brothers dumped thousands of gallons of drilling mud onto land owned by the Kelly family, and it was done with the state's approval.
This process is called land farming. It's a general practice that's done in several states, I guess, where there's oil production.
Morris Welch is the field director with the Mississippi Oil and Gas Board, which regulates land disposal of drilling waste in Mississippi.
The drilling mud is spread on the land and it's disc or tilled in.
But Welch says Mississippi has strict regulations on the land farming process. He says the drilling fluids must be tested before they're dumped on land.
Yes, it's done by an independent lab.
The documents I received from the state show there was no independent lab involved in the testing of the material dumped in the dirt pit near the Ezell property. The documents I received from the state show everything from the drilling to the testing appears to be linked to the same name, Kelly. The drilling permit was issued to Venture Oil and Gas. The analytical report on the contents of the well was addressed to Mark Kelly at Venture Oil and Gas in Laurel. I also talked to a Mark Kelly at Kelly Brothers in Waynesboro. He told me the material dumped on the land was harmless and had been tested.
We collect the sample and send it to the lab. There's several labs across the state that do this, and they test to make sure that there is absolutely no harmful substance at all in the drilling mud.
But the company that did the testing for the report was EDL Labs Incorporated, a company owned by Kelly Brothers and listed on the company's website. Is that acceptable that this company could do its own testing? You say that it's supposed to be independent.
The DEQ accepts their analysis, so that they're the local lab and they're the ones that everybody uses.
Even if it's their own company during the dumping, they're allowed to do their own testing?
It's a certified lab, and who owns the company, we're not aware of who owns the company, but it's a certified lab.
In my investigation, I found the 112-acre site where the drilling waste was dumped is owned by Tokel Holdings, LLC. The notarized permission allowing Kelly Brothers to dispose of the waste on the land was signed by 4 individuals, all with the last name Kelly.
So far as the ownership of the lab, if there's some question about the validity of the lab results that was brought to our attention, that would be one issue. But so far as determining the ownership of the lab, We don't make an independent determination of that. We simply don't.
Mississippi Oil and Gas Board attorney Howard Leach says there is nothing in the report conducted by EDL Labs to indicate there was anything toxic or hazardous in the drilling mud. And according to Leach, the practice of land application is common in oil and gas producing states.
It's sanctioned by your own Alabama Oil and Gas Board in Tuscaloosa.
You could technically permit something of that nature, but it would have to be permitted through the Alabama Department of Environmental Management.
The black ones are oil wells.
I checked with Ralph Helmich, the regional operations supervisor for the Alabama Oil and Gas Board, and he says it's not likely you'll find companies dumping drilling fluids in the state.
In the state of Alabama, through our common practices in my 30-plus years, is just not something we do. They're very thorough in their permitting process, but it takes a while to permit a site for something of that nature. And so it is not a common practice. There is a lot more common sense ways of disposing of drilling fluids here in Alabama that companies choose to use.
While we were told Mississippi regulations require independent lab testing for land farming, according to Leach, the state doesn't necessarily enforce that requirement. Now that means the assurance to residents that the material dumped near their homes is harmless could come from the company that dumped it.